It's preparing the live stream, so it'll probably go live at any minute here. We did live on Facebook before, and Rosa's coming in. So Rosa is a liaison from the wow, it repeats what I say, so I might have to shut. Hold on, I gotta shut the YouTube page. There we go. That was weird. All right, so I'm pinning Aisha. Aisha Dukuli, welcome. She is from a group called EdLanta from Atlanta, Georgia. She's a student advocacy group down there. And we welcome her to the Motivos team talk for Thursday, April 15th. And Motivos, for those of you who don't know, it is now the nation's largest bilingual, so English-Spanish magazine in the nation. It's a quarterly print publication, and we also offer a digital version starting from last spring when coronavirus was in full swing. So now all subscribers get both the print and the digital version. It's unique in that youth themselves are part of the creation process. So we run a media mentorship program, which has also taken place via Zoom, this format, for the past year. Students are welcome to join from any school. We do partner with certain schools that are subscribing to and supporting on the work that we do. And we also have university partnerships as well as national youth serving organizations that kind of lend us their resources and have our back, if you will. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass the mic to Aisha and her team to give us kind of the landscape of what's going on with their group in Atlanta, Georgia, some of the challenges and joys they faced, why they do what they do, because Motivos means motives. It's all about the why over the what. And then hear from some Philadelphia youth that are part of the Motivos team here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as to what's going on in their schools. So sharing and dialogue is the name of the game today. Aisha, take it away.
Everyone, I'm Aisha Dukley from the EdLanta Student Coalition here in Atlanta, in Metro Atlanta, in Georgia. We've been doing a lot of activism work around educational equity, making sure that Black and Brown students get better educational outcomes, particularly in the school district that I go to school in. The superintendent that's getting fired, been superintendent for 24 plus years. During that time, he's created a very white supremacist culture that benefits mainly middle and upper class white students and leaves everybody else in the dust. And so we're working to change that and to create some more equity within our school system, as well as get our peers involved in this movement, because there's a lot to do, and there's so many angles that you could work from. So I'm gonna pass it off to Brian and then Emery and let everyone else introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Brian. I'm a member of the the EdLanta Student Coalition. So overall, what we're trying to do is just trying to create and obtain a public school system that supports the needs and desires of all students, regardless of your race, gender, and your sexuality. Mainly we work with our school board members to ensure that every student has the opportunity, as I just said, our Black and Brown students especially during the pandemic, to make sure we all have the academic equity that we need and fair opportunities to everything. That's pretty much it from me. I'll pass on to Emery.
Hello, my name is Emery Arnold. I am a student at Seven Pillars Career Academy, and I am part of the EdLanta Student Coalition. My goal for this is to find out or to help people in need, like people who need their voice heard. That's what I help with. So I'm part of that, and that's basically it.
What's going on in Philadelphia? What are you guys doing over there?
Who, me? Philadelphia? Hi, I had something wrong with the volume and the computer wasn't working. Yeah, so I'm from North Philly. My name is Rosa Lopez, and I work for the School District of Philadelphia. I work for a K-8 school, the SISL, the School Improvement Support Liaison. And I was actually telling Janine that I'm actually back in school trying to finish my degree in college. So, it's never too late. I mean, I should have done it years ago, but so I'm gonna get a degree in human services. And I agree with all of you guys. My mission is to continue to support families, to push children to get an education. I'm trying to be a role model for my kids, my grandkids. I'm doing it later on, but listen, there's nothing wrong with trying to finish school. And I motivate you guys to continue doing what you're doing at an early age. Just possibilities are endless. So continue the work. And, you have somebody here in North Philly to help you guys with anything. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. How about Stephen, Isaac, Maya? Share the lay of the land kind of at your schools, if you would.
So my name is Steven. I go to George Washington Carver High School of Engineering and Science in North Philly. I live in West Philly. Currently I'm a senior, and we just got our graduation date. Actually, we'll be graduating June 11th. The rain date will be June 16th. But I know we mentioned COVID. COVID kind of wrecked everything school-wise. Last year, the last class didn't get a graduation, and just thank God we get to walk this year. But school-wise, everything's been going well. Everything's going good up here, and I guess that's it.
Awesome. Isaac, did you want to add what's going on from your perspective at your school?
How could I put this? There has been some protests, but not too much of it. So far, things have just been going in a fast pace or a fast motion, just due to the homeschooling and quarantine and stuff like that. But so far, we managed to get through it.
And you are in the graphic design program at your high school. How do you access the software that you need, or how do you continue to learn? Is that all online software at this point, or how's that working?
It's all online software at this point.
Nice. That's cool. They made that pivot.
So let me ask you, Isaac, at your school, so now in our county, so we go to school in Gwinnett County, Georgia, and they don't have a 1-to-1 laptop ratio at our county. So there's a lot of kids during the pandemic that didn't have any their laptops. They didn't have resources to be a part of school because they couldn't. They didn't have the technology, and then going to school was a safety issue for them. So how your school kind of handled that? Because you just said that they added some new technology for you all.
Yeah, as far as that goes, the access to new technology we really don't have access to, because we've really just been using our own laptops, to be honest. Most of the laptops that got distributed were either to people who were in 9th and 10th, not so as far as 11th and 12th graders. But I do understand that some doesn't have laptops.
Wow.
How do you think that's impacted your peers? I know our graduation rate has went way down because kids can't participate in school.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That has gone down with us too. People are barely even going to school these days, let alone doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand how that works.
How do you think this is going to look in the future? Because if we're going to college, we're the next generation, we're the ones that are going to change the world. How do you think it's going to play into stuff if we're not even graduating from high school?
Ooh, well, that could low-key be bad. I'm not gonna lie, especially with COVID out, and COVID's not even going to go away anytime soon. So the fact that this current generation has to deal with it, it's really going to go down fast.
What about the rest of you? What do you guys think?
It's been hard. I don't know if I could share with you guys very quick. I promise I could read it quick. But I was inspired last year for what happened to George Floyd. And, we're still in the middle of this. And I like writing poetry. And so if you don't mind me, I'll read you quick this poem that I wrote that I titled, I Can't Breathe. So it says, I can't breathe. Get off me, please. How dare you touch me, taking away what was given to me, taking away what my creator gave to me, my source of life, taken from another source. Don't hate me. It's my color. It was given to me by my father and mother. I am human, like you, man. I fought to live, like you, man. I had love and gave love. I had hopes to do right. I had dreams every day and night, obedient to the law, not knowing I will fall. A fall to my death is going to be my last breath. Off me, off me. Felt the pressure on my neck. Call my mama for help. Call my mama in her place out of desperateness, not knowing to me I will be put to rest. I can't breathe. I feel free. I feel free. I feel free. Um, it's been hard and we're still dealing with that. And in the midst of all this, it continues to happen, with just a young man in the same place that got shot. So, we have to just stick together, be safe, and continue to motivate all of us, because, I'm Latina, I'm Puerto Rican, and they also target, the brown people as well. And I have a son that looks like a lot of people. And I'm always telling him, please do not move. They tell you to stop. It's a shame. But this is the world we're living in, but not to, put fear, but continue to motivate yourself and others.
I think that's definitely important because all this stuff is going on. And sometimes it could be when you're out here doing work, it could be a lot. And then like if you're in school, they don't take that into consideration about all the things going through with the pandemic, but then the racially charged incidents too. And so what makes you guys like keep doing what you're doing? What made you want to do this type of work?
I think we had another member who wanted to add what's going on at her school landscape as well before we move on to that, if that's okay. Aisha, Anajeli?
Yeah, in my school, they would give, in the beginning of the year, they gave laptops to every single student who needed one. So like every single student in every grade. They also gave us like books, like if they knew that we were gonna need a study book, they would give it to us. They would also give us a backpack, not a backpack, but it's like a little bag where we can carry all our books and folders. And they gave us like a lot of information to people who didn't need, who didn't have internet. So like they would give us like a code if we didn't live near places where we could get internet. And they're building a whole new building next to our school that is also going to be part of our school, I think. I'm not sure 100% yet.
And that's like, I think it's a recreation center, right? With a culinary, like a commercial kitchen. So it's going to be open to the community as well. So her school took the approach of, okay, we're shut down, but let's do construction. Let's, prepare, use this time to prepare for the next step and kind of, instead of sitting and waiting, keep moving forward, taking action. So different schools responded differently here in Philadelphia, that's for sure. Did anyone else want to speak up? Maya, did you want to add what's going on at your school? She can't speak right now. No, that's okay. Back to you, Aisha.
And what I think, yeah, it's important that we keep doing, even though it gets tiring and stuff like that. It's important to keep doing the work because what makes me want to do it is because when I look at, like I'm somebody who's been affected by like not police brutality, but like harassment by the police. And when I look at that, and like I don't want that for like future generations, for my kids or my grandkids. And when I look at people like these Black and brown men that get killed by the police, I see my cousins, I see my uncles, and it doesn't feel good, right? To put yourself in that situation. And it's no reason we can really, with all the technology and stuff that we have, we can really do it. When during the days of MLK and Rosa Parks, the kids were jumping out of classroom windows to go protest. We don't have to jump out of classroom windows anymore. We have Instagram, social media, so there's so much that we can do. Just with your voice is so important, and it's enough.
Those are powerful words. Your voice is so important. We invite EdLanta anytime you guys want to write, to use our platform to help project your voices into the schools we serve. We serve over 1,400 schools and libraries in 42 states, and we'd love to include your voice, of course. So I'm just putting that out there. You can pitch certain sections if you like. You can pitch stories. We meet weekly here on Zoom. We can always share the link with you. We have quarterly retreats if it's a longer discussion that you'd like to have, or trainings that you want to propose. We can go after those. So like we have a retreat coming up for new members and new applicants on April the 24th. And it's from 10 to 12 and then 1 to 2:30, I believe it is. So we'll do some training on video editing and photography and podcasting. So you're welcome to join that or come for part of it or do an advocacy training, however you want to interplay. We're very open to ideas.
That's really cool. We actually have our own publication too. We have, well, it's like a blog, edlanta.org. It's spelled like how it's into my background, edlanta.org. And we'll also do like Facebook Live forums. We actually have one tonight at 6 p.m. on our Facebook, EdLanta. And we have like with local leaders talk about issues like workforce development, which I wrote an article about. We talked to the associate superintendent for Gwinnett County Public Schools. It was really, really interesting conversation. And we have to hold, the people in power accountable, because if we're not holding them accountable, they're not going to do what they need to do.
Did anyone want to share any experiences that they've been through, perhaps that now that you've been through it, you can see maybe perspectives or advice or tips for other students, so that if they're ever faced in a similar situation, maybe how they should act? Like Rosa was saying earlier, her hope was when someone says something, just do this because I don't want you to be in danger. And of course, that's the parent in her, right? And as adults, we often, that's our first instinct is do whatever you're told because we want you safe, right? That's our job, to keep our children safe, right? Keep our young ones safe. But there's also a place for standing up and holding your ground and letting your voice be heard so that change can happen, and so that the people in the places of the decision-making rooms where policy is created hear your voice. And there's times for taking those steps to become more educated so that you can get into those rooms yourself, right? Does anyone want to speak on maybe any situations they've been in where, that the situation was maybe tipped against them, or it was unfair how people reacted, and just so that we can all hear it as a community to say, hey, how can we do things differently, or what kind of supports are needed out there, or maybe we have connections or in rooms where we can speak up or share stories. Does anyone want to share a story today? And I'm even thinking, Stephen, your story comes to mind with the 7-Eleven. I don't know if you want to share that one, but it was very interesting. And I'm sure you've had plenty at Rite Aid where you were working as well. You don't have to share, but if you'd like to.
Yeah, I had another one in mind too, but Janae mentioning the 7-Eleven story definitely is. So we actually were going to it. I was coming back from a team retreat that we had for Motivos. And there, Janae buys us food when we come from the team retreats. And we had a Pepsi with the pizza and things that we had. It was like a 2-liter Pepsi, and nobody drunk any of it. So when we were packing everything up, cleaning up, Janae offered me the Pepsi to take it home, share it with my brothers and with my mom. And in the process of that, I needed to get change so that I could get on the train. And I went into a 7-Eleven. I literally just, like the way the 7-Eleven was set up, the counter's right here. I walked right here, like literally right here. I went nowhere in the store, just right here. And the woman in front of me, like to this day, I can say exactly what she was buying. She was buying the red box of Marlboro 100s, the cigarettes that they sell in Rite Aids and CVS, everything like that. But after that, I walked up to the counter and I asked the guy for change, and he was essentially asking me like, "Are you going to buy that Pepsi too?" I said, "No, I came in with this Pepsi." In this process, he begins accusing me of the fact that I, quote unquote, stole the Pepsi, and starts saying that he's saying that I went back there. He's saying, "You went back there. I saw you go back there and you took the Pepsi off the shelf." And he's saying, in addition to this, that he's getting ready to call the police, and he's saying, "I stocked the shelves earlier and I know that you took this Pepsi," and this, that, and the third. And in the process of it, like, I'm telling him, like, I didn't take this Pepsi from you. I explained to him where I got it from, that I was on my way back from a team retreat with a magazine that I helped to write. And in the process of all this, he's just accusing me of stealing the Pepsi. And I'm explaining to him, I didn't even go back there. I just walked in the store and got in line. I was never anywhere back there. He takes me back there and is like, this is exactly where you took it from and everything like that. But the whole process was very stressful. And I called Janae and I was like, I can even call the lady who like I was just with, that she gave me this Pepsi. And Janae and her husband Arturo, they came to the 7-Eleven. Fortunately, they live like right around the corner. So they came to the 7-Eleven, and at this point, the guy was prepared to call the cops and he had his phone and everything, but Janae got there and she explained to him, yeah, we just came back from a team retreat. I gave him the Pepsi. And that's when the guy began to start backing down and apologizing. The funny ending to this part of the story is that my mom works not too far from there, actually. So she went there maybe like a week later or something. She had my little brothers with them, and she asked to speak to the guy who started accusing me. And she said, don't discriminate against my son because he's tall and because he's black. And then he ended up giving my little brothers some Slurpees for free because of it. But that was definitely a stressful experience for me. It was one of the, I'm fortunately and blessed that it was one of the few experiences that I've had where I felt racially discriminated against in some way, shape, or form. There are probably maybe like 2 or 3 other ones within the course of my life, but that one was definitely scary because I was under the perception that he was going to call the police, and generally from what we've seen, even though I'm completely innocent, that doesn't go too well. So thank God that he was there. Thank God Janae was there. Yeah.
And to say, when we went to the 7-Eleven, right, I asked the man, I said, because I want to hear his, I'm talking now, honey, it's my, oh, okay. So I asked him why he thought what he did, right? So I wanted to hear where he's coming from. And he said, well, he took me back to the shelf and he said, it was right there. And sure enough, there was an empty spot right in the front. And so I said, I could see why you might think that a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi had disappeared from this shelf because there was an opening right there. I can see that. But I can assure you that he left our place with that Pepsi and came in here. And he's like, okay, I understand. You know, it's kind of like you needed a witness almost, you know, like another pair of eyes. But I said, don't you have a camera in this story? Like, could you check that first before you accuse someone of something?
Then like, I even told him that as well. Like I told him, like, you can check the camera, like you can look, I came in here with this and I didn't go anywhere else in the store. I walked right to the line, and I even told him what the lady in front of me bought so that he would know, like, I was right here. So
that's tricky, right? You think, okay, it's tricky to be a store owner. It's tricky to be a business owner. He's making like a quick judgment, but at that point, like, our advice is like, slow down before you accuse. Do not make assumptions about anyone in life, which is hard for anyone, right? We all carry some kind of biases based on past experiences in our own lives. So we get that, but it's a caution to everyone. Just pause before you make judgment, pause before you critique, pause before, you know, you decide on something or make an assumption. But it was scary for us. We got that phone call and we were like, what's going on? Get over there, you know? So, but yeah. Did you want to share another one? Does anyone else have a story? Because, and the other thing we learned from that is, okay, let's not walk into a store with anything that we could have bought in there out of our bag or in our hands, because someone might think that we stole it, you know? And so some of that is maybe on us, like, put it in your bag already. That could help. I don't know. I'm not putting blame anywhere, but, and my 3-year-old's hungry, so hang on.
Yeah, it's sad that we have to think about those things, like, are they gonna think that I stole this? But I feel like we shouldn't have to like think that way. People shouldn't assume that because I'm Black or because I'm brown, that I stole X, Y, and Z. They should, like Janae said, stop and pause and think, did this really happen? And we have to all check our biases, do a lot of self-reflection. We all have like a lot of biases, and we just need to stop and think. And like get to know each other. I think the bias, like, distance creates fear, proximity creates like compassion. And so when you're not around different diverse people all the time, and you hear all these stereotypes on the news and this, that, the third, then you start to believe that it's real even though it's not. And so I feel like that really starts with like getting to know each other. different people that are different from us within our own communities.
Yeah, I want to share something quick that happened to my nephew when I went to see him in Florida. We were in a Walmart store. And so, you know, how sometimes when you go shopping, you're pushing your cart, and sometimes you're looking around, and by mistake, you might touch somebody else's cart. And so he was with me. All of a sudden, I look, I say, oops, you got the wrong cart. I don't know about you, I'm leaving. But when he noticed, he pushed it away. You go, oh my God, what am I doing? So then all of a sudden, we're already getting to pay with my brother, his girlfriend, or whatever. And this is my brother's son. And all of a sudden, there was this lady, and she just comes to the back of me and she's pointing at my nephew. You know, let me tell you something. You're an ASHOLE. You're an, and she's yelling all this. And then, you know, I saw what you did. And then I'm going like this. What's wrong with you, lady? And then my brother is about to hit the lady. You don't talk to my son. You know, and we just felt that, like you guys are saying, she was too quick to accuse, making it look, and supposedly the cart belonged to an older man. And so she was trying to say you was trying to steal the cart because he was an older man. And he just made a mistake. He grabbed the wrong cart, he pushed it back where it was, but she was already cursing, pointing at my nephew. And we were, you know, she was a white lady with a little girl. And my brother said, she's lucky I'm not a crazy Puerto Rican, because, you know, I would have waited out there. You know, and so people are quick to assume things without knowing, you know, we could have waited for her outside in the parking lot and something else could have happened. But, you know, people are too quick to judge us. Just because he was a teenager, did a mistake, it doesn't mean he was trying to be mean to the older guy. But my brother was very upset. He was cursing at her, and we're in the middle of Walmart. I felt embarrassed. I wanted to leave. And I said, oh my goodness, just for a little mistake. Crazy.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, like what you said, like quick to act. You don't know what that person went through that day that made them quick to act. I always try to assume the best, but it's hard depending on what you just went through. Are you in the mental state to think the best of, right? So that's tricky. But that one phrase of, I can see why you might. Be quiet. Hold on, JJ. Be quiet. Like, I can see why you might think blah, 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 so that they know you're trying to put yourself in their shoes. I'll pass the mic back.
I like to share a story of mine. So like I live in the South, and the South, you know, already has its atmosphere. And so being a Black girl, whenever I wear like box braids, right, my hair, white people always assume that I have an attitude, or like, and so they treat me differently. But then when I open my mouth to speak and I don't have an attitude and I'm, you know, articulate, wow, you're so articulate. Wow, like they're taken aback by that. And that's like, this makes me feel like this awful. Like, why wouldn't I be articulate? Or if I have a little sister, we're 12 years apart. And so when I was younger, when I was about 14, whenever we would go out, they would always assume that, hey, oh wow, you're so young, like that's my kid. That's not, but if it was Sally and her little brother, you would understand that that's her little brother. And so, yeah.
And it happens in the media as well. So there was a Black Lives Matter protest right in front of our house here in the Fishtown part of the city. And on the corner, before they came by the house, the cops that were kind of stationed on each side of the protest, stopping traffic, et cetera, the protesters had stopped right there, and they were talking to the cops, and the cops knelt, and there was like conversation going on. And then when they proceeded by the house, they went around, there were helicopters, et cetera. The next day, the coverage was all about what had happened near the police station nearby, where the neighbors had brought like bats and clubs, and they were like trying to protect the police station from the protesters. But they didn't cover the cops kneeling, having discourse with the protesters. And I thought it was pretty one-sided. Having witnessed it with my own eyes, thinking, wow, this is like conversation happening, you know? So even the media can be biased and show one side of a story. So it's important to try to figure out what's going on each side and make sure, like Aisha was saying earlier, that there's opportunities for people to get to know each other.
So as young people, what do you guys do? What are we doing to change that? To make sure that we change the narrative and people don't just assume that because of the color of your skin, the way you look, that you're criminal or up to no good.
To change that, I would think we should start running as governors and stuff like that. So we just think that, oh, we're scared to be police officers or be governors and stuff like that, because that's what the white people do. But since it's changed, we have to do that stuff by our own to change the factor of, oh, you're Black, you did this, oh, you did this, you did that. So we have to try to change the system by ourselves if we can't change it by what we do.
I agree. I mean, President Biden started, if you look at the representatives and all the people he's been bringing in, he's trying to make them multicultural, different backgrounds to make it look like us, like America. I agree with what you're saying. You know, the more people that look like us are there representing us, then, you know, they got our backs. So that's important.
Yeah, that's true. He said like what you were saying about like representation. But I was thinking like just because you look like me doesn't mean you're like for me. Some people are there because they're trying to assimilate and they have their own personal goals.
That is true.
Everybody's talking about the police. That's how we need to be. I feel some type of way about the police. Personally, I feel like a lot of times the police, like when people commit crimes, a lot of times it's out of necessity because I don't have food, I don't have water, I don't have a place to stay. So if they defunded the police, defund doesn't mean take away the police completely. What it means is take some money away from them and put it towards public housing, so people can have a place to stay for free. People can eat for free. People can meet all the necessities that they need to, so they don't have to steal to eat or to live or whatever the case may be. And so I don't think it necessarily maybe need to be more police. I think eventually if we do that, then we won't need police. We can have a police-free state where communities manage themselves. But yeah, I don't like the police really.
No, I don't blame you.
And it's so interesting what you said, Aisha. I was having a conversation yesterday with people from Good Shepherd. It's a mediation organization, the longest running one here in Philadelphia. And they're working with young people to that same effect, like can groups govern themselves? And I was telling them about a time when I took a group of youth from Motivos to Colombia, South America. And we visited many sites and participated in different programs. And one of those was Ben Posta. It's a youth refuge where young people who were at risk for being kidnapped by the FARC were sent by their parents to be in a safe place right outside of Bogota, the capital. And the youth developed programs to govern themselves. So they figured out what they needed to feel safe, to thrive, to learn, to grow. And when someone stepped outside of those lines that they had drawn for themselves, they figured out how they kind of formed circles and talked about it and figured out why that person did it and what they need and what the consequences were. But they did it themselves, right? So it was more like self-governance for what made sense. And like you said, like if someone needs something, they may act out in a certain way. And so what is the next step? Is it to punish, or is it to say, what's at the root of this? It's kind of like healthcare in our country. when you're putting an end to a pain by taking a pill, but what's the root of that pain? Can we address the cause and therefore eliminate even the need for the pill, right? So it's kind of the same line of thinking in a sense.
They and Aisha are both saying, like, it reminds me of, we had a criminal defense attorney come to our school one time. And like, probably one of the main questions that people had for him was, why do you defend people who've committed crimes? And when he gave his explanation of it, he began to tell us that he does it because of how the system is set up. The reason being because the people he defends are people, like both Janae and Aisha were describing, are people who feel as though, or who understand, or who see, I have to provide for my kids tonight. And although I don't want to steal, because of the situation that I'm in economically or socially, that might be the only way to feed the kids. So therefore, it's like the people he defends, he was saying, they're pushed where it's like their backs in a corner now. So therefore, why punish them instead of coming up with a solution? So he's saying he's a criminal defense attorney because he wants to speak out against the system that is putting people in situations where they feel like there's no other choice but to steal, or they feel like there's no other choice but to whatever situation they may find themselves in. So that's what I'm being reminded of here was the dialogue that's going on here.
I think that leads into another topic, right? Workforce development. A lot of students of color think they can't be attorneys or doctors or lawyers, engineers, because they don't see that in their communities. And I know that here, like where I go to school, even though like there's like a lot of segregation unofficially, right? And at the more majority minority schools, they push fine arts and sports, and that's like they sell the idea to them that all you need to do is work hard. You can be in the NFL, you can be a rapper, a model, and that's how you get out of poverty. They don't really focus more on the academics and say, hey, you don't need to be a rapper or NFL player, because when you look at the record labels and the people on the team, those are all white people that don't really care about you anyways. And so I think it's important that we focus on like we can be doctors and lawyers, and you don't have to go to college if you don't want to. You can go to vocational school as long as you're doing something that's productive, right? You don't have to be in entertainment. What do you all think about that?
I agree with you with that because when you're in entertainment and stuff, people judge you based on your color. You can't get good jobs if you're an actor because most actors are white people. And when you're a rapper, they always think, oh, he murders, he kills, he steals. And so they judge you based off of what you rap, or not, well, basically what you rap and how you look and what type of job you have.
I think you muted, Emery.
Oh, you didn't hear me?
For a little bit.
You got muted.
So basically what I was saying was they judge you based off of like your skin tone, and if you're trying to be a rapper or something, then they judge you based off of what you look like, what you rap. And if you're trying to be an actor, then it's just even harder to get good roles and stuff like that. So that's all I was saying.
I agree. You know, I'm going to take you guys to my school, Father Thomas. I think you guys are very well spoken. I'm proud of you. And the little bit that I've heard you speak, you know, earlier when Aisha said about what's going on in Philly, and I see Stephen is from Philly. I have I work in a kid A school. A lot of the kids need motivation. I mean, this new way of learning. I gotta say, Philadelphia's been blessed where, in my opinion, I think everybody has a computer. There's been internet issues, but there's always ways around it. But a lot of our kids are so lacking the motivation. And I hear you guys speak so well. I wish I could invite you guys in a Zoom and pop in and get them, Aisha, get them, Stephen, get because a lot of my kids are Latino, is almost 80%. Part of the time it's almost 80 something percent Latino, and they lacking the motivation, a lot of them. And I do truancy court. I send them to court, and a lot of them don't want to come on. And I'm like, what's going on? But they'll go to be 4 hours in Roblox, but they don't want to be in school. So help me. What should I tell those kids?
We'd love to come. I think I'd love to come on and, that's be great. But when you're in an environment, and there's a lot of times it has to do with what's going on at home. Like if what's going on, if you have like a turbulent home life, the last thing you want to do is be around school that you don't really care about, or like it's hard because it's digital. You want to get away from that, and maybe playing Roblox or Xbox is what they need to do at that time. I think that like the school just needs to find a different way to reach kids and make sure they can have mental health resources so that they don't want to go to play Roblox all day. They can be in school and do what they need to do to be successful.
Yeah, and I've seen things where even in expulsion hearings, so I served as an expulsion officer for a school. This was back before coronavirus, but it was an 8th grade young woman, and she had jumped on the bus and taken the purse of the bus driver. And the bus driver had just cashed her paycheck. It was like a 2-week paycheck. So there was a lot of cash in there, right? And she went to the back of the bus and she started handing out the money. And this was kind of a popular thing to do. Yeah, I mean, you're getting free money, right? So, but they were ready to expel her. And I was in this hearing, and, I had a lot of questions, kind of that centered around why she was doing that. And it came out that she was made fun of a lot at school. She was blamed a lot for hitting and hitting back and speaking up when it wasn't, time to speak, etc. And so I said, well, it sounds like she's a leader and she needs more leadership opportunities. So maybe we could incorporate that into the next however many weeks it was, as they consider what else to do, right? But it was kind of like even small leadership roles to give her a voice, to help others see her as a leader, because, grabbing money and giving it out to people, I'm like, hey, she didn't keep it for herself. She was giving it away, wasn't she? And what's behind that? Maybe almost buying friends, right? It was buying popularity. It was saying, hey, I want people to see me as someone who can give and who can speak up and be seen in a positive light. So my thing was, well, how else can she be seen in a positive light at this school? Like, let's figure out a way for her voice to be heard and for her to be seen in a different light. And that's tricky, right? And also, I mean, an 8th grader, her whole life is like flashing in front of me. If you get kicked out at 8th grade, then what? So I think sometimes, and we were touching on that in the chat, like restorative justice. What is restorative justice? When do you step in and say, hey, we can't continue this cycle that's starting to snowball. We need to figure out what's at the root.
I like what Janae is saying, because like in certain aspects, I'm into psychology, and I know like when people do things or misbehave, like how Janae was saying, the girl had stole the purse, it's because of some reason, like back generally from a therapist standpoint, one of the main places it stems is back in childhood, and it can come from not having one of your parents in the house. It could come from not being like propped up enough where like you draw a picture and you come home, you're like, Mom, look what I drew. And it's like, no one gives you the adoration or great job that you need and that you deserve to like feel up there. So you begin to act out or do things that are because you want attention in certain areas, and any attention is good attention for you at that case, whether it's good or bad. So definitely addressing some of those things. And to feed into that, where we were talking about motivation and everything, someone came to our school 2 days ago from a company that's called the Diversity Organization, and he was telling us, he gave us like when we were talking about motivating for like being in certain positions where like there are more white actors, it's like because we as people of color don't see like people who look like us, who are like us in certain positions or in certain roles in society, we tend not to gravitate towards there because we think we can't, or we think we might be disadvantaged, or whatever the case may be. In that case, he gave us an interesting trivia, and he told us that statistically, I believe he said people of color and women statistically, this is like, we pick jobs or go into fields or careers, we pick majors that tend to lead to lower paying jobs. And then he proceeded to ask us, what group of people within the United States do you think like makes the most income? And the vast majority of the people in the Zoom call were saying white people. And he actually told us it's Asian Americans, because when you pay attention to how it works out and everything, it's not that Asian Americans are smarter or anything like that. It's stereotype with Chinese people are smarter or Japanese people are better with technology. He's saying it's none of that. It's more so just the fact of, you know, the culture that's surrounded around it and how people are raised, and then the inspiration or the motivation that you are given in that case. And when there are not people, when you don't see too many Black actors, or when you don't see too many Puerto Rican like chefs or something, like whatever it is that you want to be in that position, you don't see too much of that, it, you know, causes you to feel as though in ways you can't go towards there. And one of the things that I would say to get into that is like to feed who that person is. Like, God gives each of us gifts as far as like who we are and like what's tailored to us. Like that's my boss name. Janae is really good with like negotiating with people or talking to people or writing stuff and like helping edit things. So like that's Janae's gift. Me, I like languages. I speak some Russian, I speak some Spanish, I speak some Japanese, some Chinese. And I also own snakes. Like I'm into reptiles and stuff like that. Different people who have different gifts, like feed those gifts within the youth, so that as they grow, they can start to say, I'm going to use this and make an impact in society in some way, shape, or form, or I'm going to utilize this. And when we feed those things, like how I was saying from before, Mom, I drew a picture. And then the mother says, good job, you drew your picture, grows up later in life, becomes like the next best artist. So feeding those good things within society and giving the inspiration that we need to keep going forward. And that's
No, I think that's important. That's a really good point, Stephen, because some people will say to the children that you have to be like go into a field that has a lot of money, like you have to be an engineer or whatever. But if you chase the money, you're not going to get anywhere. If you chase a passion that you're really passionate about, like the money's going to come later. So I think that's a really great point.
I think we could transition to next steps as well. Like kind of what can we do from here? How can our two groups do something together, or how could we learn something from each other to implement where we are, Atlanta and Philadelphia?
When I heard earlier that you guys asked what us youth can do to like change those expectations they have of us, because for like my family, we're Hispanic, and literally every single woman in my family, there's one that's a taxi driver, but everybody else is a house cleaner. And even though that's because that's the opportunity that they got, because they weren't able to pursue their dreams and go to school and finish it. So I think that what we should do, like Steven said, to feed those talents that we have. So for me, I don't really want to be a house cleaner. I want to do more than that if I get the opportunity. But I think that we should keep trying to be who we want to be and how we want to be it.
nothing. Just to add to it, where we're talking about feeding the talents, is like show those talents. Like sometimes it's warmer weather now, so like I'll walk outside with my snakes around my neck or something like that, and I get like so many people pull me over and like, is that a snake, is that real, or questions like that. And then being able to explain, like they ask so many questions, and like that I'll give you the answer. So being able to see like, wow, that kid really knows what he's talking about. And it's like, just because I'm Black doesn't mean I'm dumb or I'm uneducated. There are exotic things that I know about, or there are like out of the blue things that I know about. And just because I look different than you, or just because I'm a part of this demographic or whatever it may be, doesn't mean that I'm dumber, doesn't mean that I'm smarter, doesn't mean that I'm this or that. When you see me as a complete stranger. You don't know who I am. You don't know what abilities I have. You don't know, just because I dress a certain way doesn't mean I'm poor, doesn't mean I'm rich or whatever. So, just allow yourself to be I'm losing the word in right now, but it goes in with feeding those talents and allowing those talents to show people the things you could do and who you are, like who you truly are, not what they think you are.
That's a really good word, Stephen. It's like being proactive and putting yourself out there and choosing the story that you want others to know about you. And that can be hard, right? That can be scary. That can take a lot of courage. It definitely takes people in your court to keep saying, you got this. People want to hear what you have to say. And so a part of it's finding those people and making sure they are in your court, finding those mentors, finding those supporters, finding those teachers, finding like-minded peers, finding groups like this, even from different states, right, that can keep in touch. And from a position then, a space of strength, reaching out and saying, this is who we are, this is how we want to be seen, and kind of changing perspectives. I always go back to the analogy of there's a lot of weeds that grow and they grow fast, right? But if you keep planting those sunflowers and keep nurturing the sunflowers, they grow bigger. And pretty soon people will see them from the distance instead of the weeds. So that's the hope, that's the goal, right? And then you got to find the sunshine, you got to find the raindrops, and you got to find the gardeners and the people to keep pulling at the weeds and showcasing those sunflowers. But it's that action, it's taking the action, and in that action lies that hope, and not letting the weeds keep growing without doing anything about them, right?
In the future, though, we'd love to collaborate, have you guys on one of our shows, to talk about what you're doing and maybe collab to do something across the 2 states.
I like it. I like what you guys have been saying. I mean, I'm gonna go with salad bowl. Remember back in the days, USA was the melting pot, but then they switched it to salad bowl. So everybody like the tomato, somebody's the lettuce, because we all bring something to the salad, right? And without the tomato, the lettuce, the seasoning, it's not a salad. So I like us to be unique, not forgetting where you're coming from. A lot of the youth need to know where they're coming from in order to proceed where they're going. It's always good to know about their culture. And so I like that I am part of a salad bowl, that I am unique, that I could bring forth, like what Stephen was saying, all of you guys, my uniqueness, my talents, to add it to that salad bowl and give it that good taste. You hear me? Sazon, adobo, all that Latino seasoning. And it's going to taste good when we go all join that salad bowl. So thank you guys. I enjoy myself for inviting me, Janae and all of you guys.
You are so welcome. And thank you, Aisha and team from EdLanta, for joining us from Atlanta, Georgia, here in Philadelphia. Yay, thank you again for your time. I can send like an email connecting the members with your members. Of course, you can find each other on social media. It's just at Motivos Mag, and then Stephen's got his own, right? Some of the other members do as well. Some are not on social media, of course. And then Aisha, she put some of the contact information in the chat as well, but EdLanta, EdLanta, and Motivos, Motivos. And we'll be in touch. We have another speaker, and folks from EdLanta, you're welcome to stay on. We're going to be interviewing someone from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, about an organization that she founded. So you're welcome to stay on. You're welcome to go. And we'll just be continuing from here. Any parting words, Aisha and team?
Thanks for having us. And we really enjoyed being here. I'd love to collaborate with you guys in the future.
Awesome.
Thanks for the conversation. And Aisha, I took your quote where you said, distance creates fear, proximity creates compassion. I like that.
That is beautiful.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to, let's see if I can, I'm just unpinning people and pinning people here. So we have Evita Colon is with us now, and we're just gonna pin her to the screen and do a little bit of an introduction for Evita. And I know we've got some team members who have done some research as well and have some questions, etc. Evita is an award-winning Afro-Latinx multi-hyphenate creative entrepreneur. She's a published poet, owner, founder of various creative enterprises such as Speak to My Soul LLC, BLK, Voices Magazine, and co-owner of A Concrete Rose. She's written, directed, produced 4 theatrical productions, which debuted in front of sold-out audiences, and authored a book by the same name as her play, Speak to My Soul, a montage of voices. She was recently a Woman of Achievement awardee by the YWCA out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, for her work with Speak to My Soul in the community. And she's been recognized as one of Susquehanna Style 2020 Women of Strength. She's also been featured in the Huffington Post, published by Black Girls Rock Digital on BET, and she's a part of the Natalie Stewart's Flowetry Flow Poets, an international spoken word collective. So I'd like to hand it over to Evita and let her, tell us a little bit about your journey. Feel free to ask any questions about our audience so you feel comfortable kind of walking into our space digitally, if you will. But we are a group that creates the Motivos, bilingual quarterly youth magazine out of Philadelphia, but it is now the nation's largest bilingual magazine with youth-generated content in 1,400 schools, libraries, prison libraries in about 42 states and 4 countries. And we've got a digital version as well, and host weekly team talks. So we're so happy that you're here with us today and that could find the time to share with us. And we'd love to hear more about your journey and then kind of open it up to questions. And we have about a half an hour.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, and congratulations on the growth of your magazine. I think that is amazing to hear. As you just announced in my bio, I just started a magazine in 2020. And that's called Black Voices. So we're slowly getting there to that, that growth. So it's amazing to hear how you went from a small magazine to something that is, all over the place nationally. So I look forward to continue to see you grow, and I'm happy to be here. My journey really started when I was in high school. I had a lot of things that I was dealing with as a child. I was very angry and I didn't know how to express myself. So I got into a lot of fights and things like that. So I ended up meeting up with a facilitator, and they encouraged me to put all of those feelings into my writing and things like that. So I was very familiar with poetry. My mother, she has been a poet, and, I went to all of her performances and things like that. However, it just took me a while for me to use it as my own power. So when I got to college, I was able to, participate in open mics and things like that. And it just made me feel so free. So that's what led me to writing Speak to My Soul. And it just kind of like exploded from there. I just learned that as I started to speak on my truth and tell my truth, it inspired other people to be themselves and do the same. So that was really the growth to Speak to My Soul.
I love how you said that just writing the poetry made you feel free.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit more to that? And then we'll open the mic. I think Maya and Anajeli definitely had some questions for you.
Absolutely. So feeling free. The stage is one of the places, because I love to write. I love to, write my poems down in a journal, but I really felt like safe being on stage, which is crazy because a lot of people feel nervous when they're on stage. But that was one place that I felt like I could say anything and people will clap. Like someone in the crowd always connected to something that I was saying. So it motivated me to continue to just tell my truth. And I listened to different audience members, and they said how they basically said that they were interested to see how I was so courageous to do these things. But I was kind of, healing throughout every performance. I was talking about things that were very difficult for me to sit down with my family and speak about. I was talking about things that are hard to speak about in society, and just starting this forum on stage was the perfect place for me to just be myself and kind of work through those feelings and keep talking about them so I don't keep them bottled in. I don't know if you're speaking. It's muted. Okay.
Maya or Anadeli, did you have questions that you wanted to ask to Evita?
I wanted to know if you have, like you said, you do poems. I wanted to know if you have a poem called Speak to My Soul.
Actually, I do, yes. Would you like me to perform it? I know that was that the question?
Yes.
Okay, yes. All right. I know there's people like me that have potential to be named among the greatest, like Lauryn Hill, Pac, Maya Angelou, and Spike Lee. And it's hard for me to say this, but it doesn't seem likely when I focus my goals where someone else might be. Because God has a plan for me. She speaks to my soul. So I could be the voice of the oppressed until every story is told. For every woman silenced and every African sold. For every Panther jailed and every sister in the mirror hating themselves because the world is so cold. For every Black man that heard, boy, do as you're told. For those that were denied organizations and just started to break the mold. For those that walk these streets every day facing adversities and never choose to fold. I'm voicing your stories. Speak to my soul. Speak to my soul. Speak to my soul. Our generation is unconscious. The ignorance is getting old. From the chains of gold where we changed to gain control of identities that we lost with our names and lives they stole. I'm voicing your stories. Speak to my soul. Speak to my soul. Speak to my soul. And that's Speak to My Soul. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Thank you for asking. Thank you, Isaac. Oh, y'all touching my heart.
Isaac, you're writing privately. Tell us. Go off mute. Just say it out loud.
Thank you.
That was cool. I loved it.
Thank you. Was there anything that like spoke to you throughout the poem? I wrote, that was like the last poem that I wrote for the play. And that's actually the first poem that is performed in the play. And I was sitting with a mentor and she was saying like, well, we didn't have a title for the play at the time. And she was like, well, what do you feel like you do when you do poetry? And I was like, oh, I feel like I speak to people's souls. And that's how that came about.
Yeah, that was good. I loved it.
Thank you.
And Isaac is from a creative and performing arts high school here in Philadelphia.
Awesome. What high school is that?
K-Caba.
Okay. That's awesome.
And they're renovating their stage, I understand, Evita. So maybe you'll make a trip to Philadelphia when everything opens up again.
I would love to. I actually lived there for 4 years. I just moved back a year and a half ago. So I was in Philadelphia for a while. It's not too far from me. I think someone had a question.
Maya is in the Young Philadelphia Playwrights as well as Motivos. And so, Maya, would you like to have the mic and ask any kind of questions that relate to your own work?
I think she asked, what's the most inspiring thing about what I do? Wow. I've been able to perform in very in different spaces with different people. So I've been able to perform in detention centers. I've been able to perform in hospice. I've been able to perform, and sometimes for me, it's a lot of pressure. Like I've performed at funerals and things like that, but it wasn't a request of the person that passed away, which it means a lot for them to want my words to be a part of their homegoing services and things like that. I've performed for a lot of people in challenging spaces like shelters and things like that. And the words just have been able to push them to keep going or make them feel like they're not alone. Well, let them know that they're not alone. I think when we're in a lot of challenging times, sometimes we think that we're alone and it makes it harder. So being able to say these things on stage with other people in the room that can connect with those things, it just pushes people on. And that inspires me to hear their stories after I finish performing.
Wow. And that's such a blessing, like you said, to be able to send someone off or lift someone's spirits.
Yes.
With your words. Wow.
Any more questions?
While you're performing, like, what have been like some experiences that you would like to share?
While I'm performing, or just in general, like?
Yeah, like in general.
Okay. There could be so many. So last year I did something pretty cool. That's when I joined the was it last year? Maybe it was in 2019. I joined the International Poets Collective called Flow Poets. And I was able to travel to London to do a tour over there. And that was really cool. That was my first time in London. It was also my first time traveling by myself. So I got to experience a bunch of things and just see how people create and come up with things in a different space and in a different country. So that was really cool. What else? I've been able to perform with like some of the people that I've looked up to. I don't know if you know any of these artists, but like Common and Lauryn Hill and Flowetry and those type of people. So it's amazing to see things come full circle for those people to be my inspiration and become my peers. I'm sure there was much more interesting stuff that may have happened. I just can't think of it right now.
Do you have any advice for young writers or poets or performers as to how they can get their voice out there or join certain organizations or just kind of, the next rung on the ladder, so to speak, or how to explore their passions and talents?
Yes, definitely. One thing I would say right now, with social media being such a huge thing and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, a lot of writers and creative people, they feel like they have to keep making content just to put it out there in the world. And they're not really making the content for themselves anymore. So I would just say, like, if you're a writer, you're always a writer. Even if you stop writing for 5 years, you're still a writer. That's still in your heart to do. You don't have to do it every day to be a writer. You don't have to do it on a professional level to be a writer. You can just, you're a writer. So just, say that affirmation that you are, like, I am a writer. I am a poet. I am, say those affirmations to build up your confidence and, make yourself feel whole, even if you're not producing any type of writing or any type of content. And just be kind to yourself. You're not always going to come out with that perfect work. Like, I am my worst critic, and I know most other creatives are the same way, where sometimes I come out with beautiful things and it's not good enough to me. And we have to be kind to ourselves in this journey because sometimes other people aren't. So we should always give ourselves our first compliment and continue to write. Never stop writing. I mean, you can take a break, but like, always write things down. That'll keep you going.
We have a number of writers on our team, of course, as you can imagine.
Yes.
And we've shared different ways we keep track of things. I know Stephen has shared that he's writing down a lot of things for his future book, just kind of capturing context and details and smells and flavors so that it all comes back to life when he has the time to really sit down and write, you know?
I would like to read that book when you're done as well. I'm actually opening up a bookstore, so
Thank
let
you.
me know. Seriously.
All right. Okay.
Did any of the young people want to share something they're in the middle of, whether it's a play, performing, writing a play, writing a book, writing a poem, you know, getting over writer's block, any kind of tips or tricks that maybe Evita has developed through her time doing this that she could share with you all?
When I have writer's block, I have to let it go. Like, I always encourage people to do this. I actually got this tip from like a post that Erica Badu put up. And she was saying, like, if you have writer's block or a creativity block, just go out and live. Like, you become inspired by doing regular things, like just going out and, you know, just seeing things, interacting with people. That's when where your inspiration comes. Like, looking at a blank screen or a blank paper, that is not going to inspire you. So if you ever find yourself in in writer's block, or you need to get out and breathe, just do it. You will feel a lot better about yourself afterward. And I think that's it about writer's block. So that's usually my key advice. Just go live a little bit and step away, come back. Something will come to you.
That sounds like good advice for life in general as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of even like exploring, what do you want to do in the future? Well, the more you think about it and ruminate on it, it's just going to fester. Just go out and try things, you know, and then reflect. And did you like it? Didn't you like it? You know?
Yep, exactly.
Maya's got another question in the chat. In what ways would you say doing what you do has changed you as a person?
I always say speak to my soul keeps me very self-reflective, because I made this brand up saying, like, you know, encouraging people to live in their truth. And there was a few times during this journey I was like, wow, am I really living in my truth? Like, am I telling people to step out and be courageous and, you know, stand on their stories, and I'm not doing the same. So I'm always very self-reflective. I try to be my best self. I acknowledge that I'm not always going to be perfect. I acknowledge that I'm going to make mistakes, but I still try my best. And that is what Speak to My Soul really like holds me accountable for. Yes.
Miss, how did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Or do you have like another side thing? But like, how did you know this is what you know that this is what you want to do?
You know, I wanted to be a lot of things growing up. I ended up not being any of those things. I think I actually went to school. I went to Shippensburg University and I got a bachelor's degree in sociology. I ended up kind of using that because all of the research I've done through sociology studies, like I learned a lot about human interactions and things like that. And I used that in my poetry. But I knew that this is something that I wanted to do when I couldn't leave it alone. Like, I could not leave it alone. I would say, oh, I'm quitting. I'm done with this. I'm not getting booked anywhere. I got writer's block, and I will come back to it. Like, I would never leave it alone. And then I knew that I was purposed to do this by the people that I impacted. There were people that came to my shows, and I would think it was the worst show ever. And they'll say, you saved me. I had people that were going through really hard times that came up to me, and I was like, wow, this is what I'm here to do. No matter what, I always came back to it. If I was making a lot of money, if I had to do it for free, I always would do it and still be passionate about it. So that's how I knew I couldn't let this go.
That was a great question, Anna Jelly. I think a lot of people
Amazing.
maybe struggle with that, right? Like, what What is your own definition of success? How are you living in your own truth? And I'd love actually to hear from the members just answering those questions if you've thought about them at all. Like what does success look like to you? What does living in your truth mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Have you thought about it?
Yeah.
We could popcorn it around if you want. Any comments on that front? And Stephen, maybe start with you.
So success to me, I mean, I feel like for a question like that, I would probably need like a more in-depth, like tailored question, because it could be like overall, or it could be like business-wise, it could be spiritually. And then when we say like living in your truth, I never like when like people use the term living your truth or anything. The reason why is I just for me, I try to bundle these into like two questions, because now I'm starting to think about them, and the way my head's working, it's like twining both of them together to where it's like, for me, overall success for in my personal life is to serve Jesus Christ. And because at the end of the day, like back in 5th grade is where my testimony came in and everything. And I started asking myself in 5th grade, like, what was the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? And I started to essentially come to the conclusion, like, at some point, like, I'm not like, if I become successful, I got a business, I got this, my wife, kids, everything like that, I can't take any of that with me after I pass on. So can I take with me? And I found the only thing that I could answer that question with was living my life for Christ. So therefore, success to me is living for Jesus Christ. Success for me is living in the truth that he says it is. And success for me is, from a business standpoint, I want to become an interpreter. So like even right now, I got like my Chinese notes and stuff like that, because like I want to do the main language that I want to interpret for is in Chinese, and then also do like a business with my reptiles. Success as well would be, being able to live comfortably, be happy, and learn things along the way, allow myself to become a more well-rounded individual, pick up a thing or two every here and there, like different I guess like being a jack of all trades in ways. That's one of the words I could use to describe it. I got language over here. I can also do carpentry over here. I can do this over here, that over there. So, developing myself as a human being.
Constantly
So insightful.
evolving. Yeah. Yep. Ever-present learner. And Steven's always been a deep thinker on our team. We love to hear what his musings are in his head,
And a friend of mine one time, when he saw me learning Chinese, and like I was on a program that I will not use again. It's called Duolingo, but he saw me like getting like everything right, and he was like, you just know this. And he's like, and he introduced me to a new word. He said, you're what's called an autodidact. You just like to teach yourself stuff. Like, you don't wait for other people to do it. You just do it yourself. Like, everything I know, my favorite example is like the Russian language. So everything I know about Russian, I taught myself in some way, shape, or form. I didn't like have a class where it's like, okay, class, today we're going to learn how to say I can speak Russian. No, I taught myself all that. So picking up stuff, and like I said, just making myself more well-rounded.
Renaissance man.
Yes, you're amazing. You are amazing. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, you.
Isaac, Anajeli, Maya, did you want to add? And it can be just musings. It can be like not fully formed thoughts. It could be kind of dreams or goals or wishes or wonderings. Because Evita's done a lot of that kind of soul searching to come to this place where she's grounded in what she does and able to give from that place of strength to others to help build them up as well. We have a member who actually wrote a play and it was performed by students at Temple University. That's Maya, she's on here.
Wow, I'd love to hear about that.
I don't know if you can go on mic, Maya, at this point. Do you have background noise still, or you can just type in the chat? And she's a senior in high school, so she's looking at universities. I don't know, did you make a decision yet, Maya? Or are you kind of waiting on that? Let us know. Her play was about immigration and deportation.
Amazing. Wow. Will it be put on again at any time? Well, I guess when theaters open back up, right?
Okay, so she decided to go to Wilkes for psychology and hopefully theater. There you go.
Awesome, congratulations.
Yay, and Evita, you're doing performances now, right? Are you guys, how are you doing things with the restrictions on audiences, et cetera? Or are you going forward with everything now with masks? Or tell us a little bit about how you're maneuvering around with the coronavirus and everything.
We actually, as far as the live productions go, we actually had to postpone our 2021 production. And I guess we'll do it next year, in January, so 2022. And as of live production, I haven't done anything really live yet. Everything has been pretty virtual. I miss it. I miss audience interaction and, you know, feeling, you know, the warmth of people being close while you're performing. So I haven't done much live recently, but hopefully soon. By the summer, we should be up and running.
And do you work with school districts and children? Tell us about that aspect of your work.
Yes. So right now, due to coronavirus, I'm like doing, I'm teaching spoken word after school virtually. I am an artist in residence. So basically I go into different schools and create curriculum around spoken word, any type of art, to be honest. And it's fun. I like it. I think, you know, the youth take better to an artist coming in because we're kind of doing fun stuff. So it's a great experience. I love it.
And tell us about how, like, what's your background or what kind of experiences did you need or training did you need in order to develop curriculum or to go into schools? Or how do you approach that as kind of an entrepreneur?
I think I was kind of thrown into that originally. I think someone asked me to come in and speak in the school and I was like, oh, I like this. I have a lot of friends that are teachers. So I also have people on my team that are teachers or used to be teachers, and they have a deep background in facilitating workshops and structuring those things. In college, we were a part of this this organization that kind of threw us into facilitating workshops for people on campus. So I just had to kind of figure out like what the youth would want versus college students. And once I, you know, got that down, I just been on go since then. But I had to learn what was a part of a curriculum as well. So like just making sure that I'm touching base on, usually we already touch base on those things, but like touching base on like social studies or history or math in some type of way, STEM, just, you know, trying to hit those points when I do come into school, or I'm pitching to a school that I would like to come in there and speak to students.
And we're missing one of our members this evening, Karime. So she noticed that in her school, they didn't have a lot of, or maybe any Latino or Latina writers represented in the curriculum. So she approached the social studies teacher and he worked with her to embed it in the curriculum, and it starts next week. So yeah, as a high school student, she's a junior, she's awesome. Able to see a need and do something about it. Yep.
I'm happy they listened, like, and they're willing to work with her. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's great to hear.
Yep. Kudos to the school. Kudos to her for,
yes.
You know, raising her voice, making it
Absolutely.
known. Anything else like that we didn't ask that you would like to share?
I'm trying to think. I I know we have a bunch of writers, people in theater and all of that. I would say one of the things that I've learned is not to allow myself to be discouraged by no's, by people telling me, no, this isn't good enough. My very first play, I pitched it to a big theater company here, and I had a formal meeting, and they gave me my script back, and they said, this is amateur work. We will not produce this. And I went to the theater next door to it, and I did the same thing. I pitched it to them, and I was like, if you give me a chance, I won't disappoint you. I knew nothing about theater, but I took one theater class in college. I knew nothing. So they gave me a chance, and they were like, if you sell a few tickets, that's okay. If you just want to do a community reading, that's okay. You still have our stage. And I ended up selling out that show twice. So just don't allow people to tell you no and tell you that you can't do something. Your purpose. I don't know what everyone believes in, but if you are aligned with the things that you're supposed to do in this life, they're going to come to you. Everything's going to come to you that you need. You already have those things within you. It's just about encouraging yourself and keeping yourself, just believing in yourself to see it through to the other side, because it does get challenging. Still today, I face many challenges. A lot of people that maybe, I guess, they may have been in the professional industry longer. Sometimes they doubt you. They'll challenge you just to see what you can do and what you can't do. But just stay, believe in yourself more than anyone else. If you pray, make sure you pray. If you meditate, make sure you meditate. You have to take care of yourself. Take care of who you are first, because art is art, but you need you to be able to produce those things. So you have to make sure you take care of yourself throughout this whole journey. It is fun, it is fulfilling, it is purposeful and inspiring, but you have to take care of you first.
That's a beautiful note to end on. Yeah, everyone's clapping, snapping fingers. Thank you for spending this time with us today and for giving from your heart and kind of pouring into us. We so appreciate it. Yeah, everyone thank you in the chat. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing space with me. I greatly appreciate it. And I wish you all well in all of your endeavors. And please keep me updated with everything that's going on. Any updates, I would love to learn more.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Evita.
You're welcome. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you. So next week's Team Talk, you guys, the 22nd, we are going to be hosting a panel of faith-based institutions. We have Elam College and St. Joseph's University confirmed to date. We've also reached out to Manor, Cabrini, LaSalle, and Rosa has told us that she got her degree from Lancaster Bible College. So we're going to ask them as well and see who has that time right in their schedule where they can join us and are interested in joining us. Elam College is based up in Lima, New York, which is near Rochester, New York, and St. Joseph's University, of course, you know where that is, right outside Philadelphia. Actually, half of it's on Philadelphia and half of it's outside of Philadelphia. It has the line that breaks the campus in two, which is interesting. They offer a graduate program for those that want to go into teaching, and it's a fully paid master's degree where you then teach in the Catholic school system in Philadelphia. So I'm hoping Liz Marty from our team will join us because she wants to do teaching and journalism and she's in college now, but it's a program to be aware of, right? So if you ever thought, okay, teaching might not pay so much, and of course, and then I have to pay for the whole degree too. Well, this is a way to get your degree paid for. Rosa, see, there's a way to do it, Rosa. So that's coming up, and Stephen is working on questions now for those panelists. And Stephen, for that, I would say maybe if you come up with maybe 3 questions, and then we can email it to them.
I have 4 right now.
What's that?
I have 4 right now.
You have 4. Okay, great. And that way they can incorporate that into their presentation, and then open it up for questions. And the person from Elam was an actual student there, and now he's like a worship leader and a tech coordinator. So they're coming from different areas. Some were students, some work there, some prepare people for teaching.